Hey guys, what's going on? This one's going to be a little bit different video. It's going to be actually geared more towards coding. Not going to be coding example. I mean, I'm not going to give you guys code, but I'm going to show you guys how to set it up. A lot of you getting kind of confused about what to do and how to go about it, and some of you are even confused as to what RageHook is. RageHook, it was made primarily by Mullen, DK19, and LMS. For those of you, I mean, I don't know why everybody always forgets about Mullen. God bless his heart. Mullen's a guru of code. He constantly schools me and makes me feel dumb. But LMS, he's also got his foot heavily into LSPDFR and LCPDFR, along with Sam. Sam is kind of like, and this is just speculation on my part. My bad if I'm wrong to all of you guys. But Sam is kind of like the heavy lifter guy in terms of coding for LSPDFR. Mullen's he seems like the API guy. He's doing a lot of the API work for the RageHook. If you don't know what API is, it's just basically kind of a tool set. The RageHook in itself is a tool set that modders use to make mods, and for what that means is the RageHook in essence is what's going to be running LSPDFR. So you do need RageHook, and I've even seen some of you guys are like, RageHook doesn't work on Windows XP. I mean, you can't see it because I don't like cameras, but I shook my head no, so I don't have my webcam set up, and I don't know when I'm going to do that. But if you're running Windows XP, damn, get with the times. And we'll go from there. I'm going to show you this is the download link. You can see the RageHook.net plugin. This is the first open alpha, meaning anybody can get it if you guys are eager to get your hooks into it. See right there, eager to get your hooks into it. But anyway, so here's the download of this. You can see all these things in here. You're probably like, wow, that's a lot of stuff in my directory. Well, it just goes into the main directory. You see right here, Rage, and I mean, I can drag and drop these guys, but I'm not going to. It's the exact same version. You don't have to put the SDK in there. The SDK is just the developer kit kind of thing. This is the reference that you need to do, and I'm going to go through setting up a project. A basic project. I'm probably going to use one of their example plugins, but I'm going to go through setting up a basic project in Visual Studio 2013. I suggest using 2013, not 2012, because of the basic build format. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but anything newer than that, it could have conversion problems because of how it works. So I highly recommend using 2013 for this, and we'll kind of go on from there. So I'm going to start. We'll run this. I'm going to put it down for now though. But so you can pretty much drag and drop the SDK, wherever you need it to, and we'll go ahead. Before we even get started, I need you guys to go in here. You're unfamiliar with it, so take your time to learn about these examples. You can see how he sets up forms. Game fibers for the RageHook is generally in relation to time. You can tell things to yield, you can tell things to stop, you can literally create threads, which is really cool. Like, the way they've handled this RageHook is awesome. You can create additional threads and stuff. So game fibers is very important. I recommend going in there, and you can just open up a straight up C# format. And God, I don't want to update. I'm trying to give an impromptu unrehashed class, but you can literally open it right up in here and see what these guys are doing in terms of setting everything up. They've got comments that kind of define what everything does, but the code is written so well in terms of how this tool set works that you won't see a lot of comments because it's self-explanatory. So I said game fibers to do with something in terms of game time, and obviously this is telling it to sleep, and he's passing it delay. And obviously he's going to be setting a delay somewhere at some point. Well, I don't know where he's defining. I'm too lazy to search. But you can see there he's doing his actual checks for just telling it to sleep, and he's checking if the driver is not existent and the car exists. So all this isn't commented, because if you know what you're doing on even a novice level, this is pretty explanatory stuff. Excuse my throat. I don't know if this cold is ever going away. I think I'm just gonna like slowly die and fade away. But so we're gonna go briefly over how to set it up. I'm gonna start a brand new project, and you can see I went to File, New Project, and from there what we're actually gonna be doing is just a class. And yeah, I'm just trying to debate what I want to do real quick. And from here, you want to make sure that you have the right framework. You don't want to use the 4.5, you want to use 4.5.1. We'll throw you some errors. Even if you forget this or make a mistake or you've already have a project using 4.5, make it to 4.5.1. You're probably throwing an error. We'll just go ahead and call it testing, whatever. We'll get it popped open so I'm not wasting all of your time. And now from here, we got to go ahead and set up some of our references for those of you that don't know how to set those up. And we're just going to go to add a reference. And the thing here, Gwen is, it's the forms related one. So if you want to use Windows like forms, Gwen is an entirely different set of its own API that I think LMS and Mullen DK decided to include into the RageHook, and it's actually pretty powerful and pretty flexible. It's why RageHook looks so professionally done, and you know, it comes with a lot of options. But I'm gonna browse. Remember that on our desktop, I'm not gonna. It's the same SDK, but I'll show you on the desktop. I got a bunch of stuff in here. Okay, so this is the file we just dragged in here. We're gonna include that. I'm going to do one at a time, or maybe not even all of them. So here it is now. We've got the RageHook set up in there. But we don't want a local copy. We're just going to double click that and set that to false. What the local copy means is when you build this or you generate this, that it's just going to throw a copy of this reference in the directory. And that shouldn't be true, because your end user should already have the RageHook installed, so you shouldn't need to include a copy. And within the RageHook, all your scripts, they're going to be going in here. You can see I got the LS paramedic kind of set up, and I've been experimenting with, you know, different audio and texture GUI stuff. I really wish we could embed pictures, because I don't like you guys being able to touch my pictures. I worked hard on them. Not really. So now we got our reference for that. It just depends and comes down to what else you want to use. But a lot of you guys are tinkerers, and tinkerers are good, and it's not a bad coder, but you do better in terms of coding when you mess with somebody else's code, I've noticed. So one of the easier ones and smaller ones to tinker with is the vehicle indicators. And you know, I recommend taking a known working sample of code and using that. So what we're going to do is we're going to literally copy and we're going to paste the entire thing into our project. The entire thing. We're going to get rid of all these lines, and we're just going to save that in there. And from here, we're going to have some things that it's requiring. You see, it doesn't have a reference to forms, and forms is a reference from Windows.system. So we need to add another reference. And what we're going to do, it's one of the assembly references. It's one of the basic you know, libraries that you can use. So we'll just type forms, and you can see there it is. Boom. Now we're going to go ahead and include that one. And we'll do another save real quick. And you can see those errors are gone. And you know, up here it was requesting forms mainly because of a couple of things. Like, yeah, forms relies on keys and you know, some of the like templated functions in there. And you know, this is a required line. These are things that the RageHook requires for it to start up. And in here you can see a the reason I chose this, because you can see a pretty heavily commented example code that's very short. And what one of the things to keep in mind, if you are going to be calling things from this main body script and not making an additional class script, is that you're going to be declaring all the things that are going to be getting hit are going to be in this while true loop. But every single while true loop within the RageHook does need a gamefiber.yield, because it makes its own threads. And if you don't understand anything that I'm talking about, pause the video, take a little bit of time to learn. You might not specifically be learning to code, but when you learn about what's going on and you have a better understanding behind all the mechanics, you start to grow better as a coder. So we got this one in, and what we can do right away in terms of making it a rapid build is I like to right click testing, go down to properties, it opens up this build manager. And from here you can go down to the build location, and it's just going to throw it into the bin right here. But if we want a good solid workflow where we're not constantly dragging these files around, just go to wherever you got Grand Theft Auto 5 in, go into your plugins folder, which should be there naturally when you dragged and dropped the RageHook into your entire project, or into your entire main directory. And you're just going to paste that there, and you're going to press Control S to save, and then you can close that. Now every time that I press you know, the F6 key, it's going to build to the proper location, because now you can see my testing DLL popped up here. And this is just part of a little testing log as well. And lastly, excuse me for the burping and congestion, I really apologize. But lastly, let's handle this warning. Basically we got, you know, a mismatch of runtime. And what we can do that is, to fix that rather, is you right click your actual solution. You're gonna go into configuration manager and you're just gonna add a new, and it's looking for a 64 type CPU processing format. So when we close that, we'll go ahead and save it, and boom. So now we have no warnings. We have a reference to the you can add more references. Some of you are saying, like, you know, well, how do I get an INI file? How do I add audio? How do I do that? Anytime you run into a problem, you can legitimately Google C#, you know, the little number icon, C#, and type in your problem and expand your knowledge as a coder. Don't go running immediately to ask somebody else a question, especially if it's low level. Take the time to learn and invest and grow yourself, because you'll remember it more if you actually do the footwork and research and the typing and the hair pulling. That's just from my own personal experience, but I do say jump right into code. You know, you can see they're declaring vehicles here and what they're doing with it, and you know, he's setting a state for it in terms of it's on or off, and you can see that, you know, he's got the keys on which you push to turn your turn signal on, and all of this is very, very reader friendly. That's one of the positives about C#, is that it remains very, very reader friendly. And now you might be confused because you're new to RageHook, so there's some simple things you can remember and keep in mind. At any point in time, you can look into the RageHook, and except here, I do like that. But you can look in here and you can learn about it. So most of your bread and butter for what you're going to be doing and you need to stay, you know, towards, is going to be under the Rage assembly itself. And you can see you got things like, this is, you know, any type of entity calls you could do. You could set rotations, you could check statuses, you could get its speed, like you could change its position, and you know, all of these things right here are the tool sets. This is the bread and butter for what you'll be using. Here's the things you can do with the players if they're a pedestrian. You've got all this hard work that these guys have done to make a really fluid and useful thing. And my favorite is that I can just use a vector 3 like normal. That pissed me off with the .NET community build, that I had to type like math F5, like I had to type this hellaciously long time just to access the vector 3. These guys got it right. Even just their was it their distance check? Yeah, even just their distance check, rather than comparing it the old way, you can just do a basic distance check like this and hand it to something. It's just it's a fluid tool set. I really like it. So back on the topic, you might need some more references. It just really depends what you're getting into, but you can see the basic ones I've got to start with. You do need to add the Windows form. Of course, you need to add that. If you want to access the Gwen stuff, and again, that's just their form related stuff. What I was doing is actually just grabbing it out of the folder area for the actual game itself. So I would just go into here and grab it from there as a reference. And then from there, you can kind of do a little bit extra with Gwen if you want a direct reference from that yourself. And you can reference that because it's in the directory for the build as well, so you won't be doing any no-nos. And you know, you should be all set up. I'm not going to fire up the game and show you that the turn signal works, but you need to, because once you get to this stage, now you've got your prepped ready format, you're ready to go, and you can go from there in terms of, okay, I know this works, now I just need to code. So if you run anything, it's not your setup that's the issue. Let's turn that to false too, because again, we don't want to include a local copy. But you know that it's running and working correctly, and that it's you that's at fault if anything else. If you're having trouble with getting to this point, you're probably not using Visual Studio 2013. You probably might not have the correct redistribution packets. If you get a thrown error down here that wasn't what I shown, you know, Google that error, C#, whatever error you're getting, and chances are you'll find a solution within the first 10 minutes. There's a real helpful coding community out there. They're all over the place, and you can go from there. And let me see, in closing, that pretty much covers it. You're set up, you're good to go. And you know, from there you can just kind of start happy coding. And you know, you can add things like INI phrasers to make your individual key files and things like that, because even you can see how LS Paramedic is actually starting to, I'll ignore all this, this is where I throw all my trash testing mechanics, but you can actually have it talk to different sections of the form based off of what you're doing, and you can see how quickly it can get kind of expansive and start to grow. But you know, look around for an INI. If you want to set one up, like adding music and files and audio, it's extremely straightforward. And I did this tutorial because my inbox was literally getting filled up with, I don't want to say dumb questions because no question is a dumb question. Everybody has to start somewhere. But you know, I'm by no means a guru. I am a hobbyist, but you know, I've been working with the RageHook for a little bit now, and I've gotten through some of the oddities that I've had from it, and that'll get you squared away. That'll get you set up. That'll get you trouble free if you follow the tutorial. If you follow this tutorial to the T and you're still having issues, it's on your end. It's not RageHook. And it's not this tutorial, because I literally just showed you guys how I dragged and dropped, added it as a reference, and started a brand new project, and even copy and pasted one of the template codes in there so you can test and build and make sure it's working on your end. If you do have a legitimate question, meaning that you're stuck on something for a while, you know, feel free to message me on LCPDFR.com. You know, FinKone, same thing. You'll find a bunch of like stickers and stuff and everything pointing to my YouTube page, and I'll try to get back to you. The thing is that I've been getting swamped, but if it is and you want precedents to be answered, have the subject title say video question, so I know it's from YouTube and I know that you've even watched this video this far, because if you already skipped out after you've set it up, shame on you. If you want more of these coding videos, which I'm leery to do because I don't like to waste time teaching it, you know, hit that like button. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, and this will get you started in terms of setting up the RageHook. And you know, I really appreciate all the support. Thank you for, you know, all the positive comments so far, and I really look forward to bringing you all more content and just, you know, having you guys grow with me on my channel. And I'll see y'all at the next one.